It is such an interesting subject because it is not well known. And
Yeah,
one of the reasons why I'm willing to talk about it is because nobody else will,
yeah,
and
exactly.
if it, there's so many unnecessary stigmas attached to a lot of stuff. Like, I'm a
Correct.
UFO buff. I love UFOs. Like, I think
Hmm.
it's absolutely silly that we can't have open and honest conversations about
Hmm.
UFOs.
Hmm.
Perimenopause as well. I'm a
Hmm.
guy, I'm 40 years old, I'm a dad, and I still get funny looks when I say the word period or menstrual cycle. All right, so today I have with me Amita Sharma. Hi, Amita. We're going to talk about perimenopause today. As I was speaking with you off camera, I don't know anything about perimenopause. I actually know, so I know very little about like menopause, and that's probably about the extent of my knowledge. Is like hot flashes, kind of attitudes here and there, hormonal imbalance. Because I'm not a woman, I never looked into it any deeper than that. But I have several women in my life, my daughter, my wife, sister in laws, sisters in law. I have, friends, family, all kinds of females in my life who might be dealing with some of these issues. And I
Hmm.
wanted to talk to you today and kind of get maybe a little bit of a more than a basic understanding of menopause and perimenopause, how it affects relationships, how it might affect moods, and all kinds of stuff like that. You good?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I never expected, a guy to interview me for this, but thank you so much. I feel very honored whenever guys want to learn about it. So that says that, it's great.
Yes. I'm
Um,
very naturally curious about everything, but more naturally curious to help the relationships
yeah.
around me, and because that brings us all peace, right? If we are trying to understand the people around us, that absolutely helps foster healthy relationships with open and honest dialogue with each other.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely, and you rightfully said this right thing. Perimenopause is something that a lot of us don't understand. Even the medical community, there's a gap because they have not been taught about perimenopause in their medical schools. Believe it or not, they're taught about only menopause, and I will clarify the difference for a few hours. And I'm not a medical doctor, but I have interviewed about 3,000 experts. So whatever I'm saying is based on my interviews and my research. Just a big disclaimer here. But so the menopause is typically, I think most of us understand, everybody understands, is basically, when the menstrual periods stop for women, that's the menopause. And it's reverse of puberty, if you think about it. And then after that, women are postmenopausal for the rest of their lives until they die. Very simple. Now, the perimenopause is a bit different. Perimenopause is women still have periods, but they are irregular, and that's what is causing hormonal fluctuations, and also the mood swings and the brain fog and the hot flash is more, not that they stop afterwards, but they're more kind of erratic sometimes because the hormones are fluctuating like crazy on, could be on a single day. So that's that sleep issues, and then when you have sleep issues in the morning, you're not productive from work point of view, also sharp. So all these things are happening in perimenopause journey, and they can start as early as late 30s. That's the thing. It's not an older woman problem. That's what we think when we say, oh,
Right.
menopause, oh my God, now your life is whatever, you know? But
Right.
this is starting earlier now with if you look at the data, right? And that's what is causing a lot of issues and problems in younger, typically younger couples as well. Could be a problem because loss of libido could also be one of the symptoms because of these things, the hormone fluctuations that are happening during this phase. And then the other thing is this whole perimenopause phase can last up to 10 years. Now, if somebody started like late 30s and they don't get to menopause until they're 50, you can we can all do the math, right?
Right.
That is
Right.
what, and it's not understood very well, under researched, underfunded. And even if sometimes when I was going through my perimenopause journey, typically you're dismissed. I was dismissed by the medical fraternity by giving me an anti-anxiety or anti-depression pill. And there was nothing wrong with me. Yes, I had anxiety. I'm not saying I didn't have anxiety or I was not stressed out, but I was definitely not a depression case here,
Right.
right?
Right.
But due to all these things, so these are some of the really high level basics. It impacts everyone. If your spouse or your family members are going through this and you as a guy don't understand what's going on, or even though the problem is they also don't understand what's going on, that's the problem. And of
You're
course,
right.
right,
So
that's
that's
what the yeah.
actually where I'm at with
Yeah.
my family. So there's some interesting dynamics that I deal with. I'm actually
Mhm.
a stay-at-home dad and a house husband. And my wife is wonderful. She's awesome. But sometimes there are communication issues that
Yeah.
I think may sometimes not stem from ourselves, but maybe something that's going on within our bodies that we don't fully
Mhm.
understand.
Mhm.
And that's what got me curious about this conversation in the first place is
Mhm.
when I see information that I'm not really thinking about, like, could some of our disagreements be because of health issues? Um, I don't really pay attention unless I'm going through that moment right then, and then I might see something, oh, this may be it. And then it'll be a passing moment and I won't think about it again.
Mhm.
And when you reached out to me, I was immediately intrigued because this is a situation where I know a lot of people that could possibly be dealing with some of these issues and it may be affecting their marriages. And I
Mhm.
know there's a handful of people I know that have already gotten divorced because
Oh my
of,
God, that's not good. What age
right.
group are we talking about now? Just so
Um,
that,
in like mid 30s to 50s,
yeah, see, that's
in that
exactly what
area.
I was saying. Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about.
And how early do you think these things actually, like, could possibly we have a few cases underdiagnosed of people in
Mhm.
their mid 20s?
I don't know about the mid 20s part. Mid 20s could be PMS. Well, hormonal fluctuations happen for women, even if they have regular periods, right?
Right, right.
And
And
and and
actually,
and
I mean, to
you know,
actually kind of add on to that, hormonal shifts actually happen a lot in men too. So
yes, yeah.
people don't think about that.
Mhm.
The only reason I do is because I have to come up with explanations for some of my quirks. So go ahead.
No, no, mid 20s typically. I don't think the person is going through perimenopause. That's too young. But there could be hormonal imbalance in her body. That's possible. There could be hormonal fluctuations. There could be PCOS case. Who knows, right?
Right.
So I think if someone is in their mid 20s, typically the experts, they would recommend a Dutch test. Basically, it's a hormonal, it gives you a complete overview of your hormonal test, what if their hormones are imbalanced, right? And also sometimes they also typically say a very detailed gut health test. Your gut and your sometimes hormones could be completely off balance. So those are the things
Yeah,
typically if you're,
that's actually
you know
very interesting because
yeah.
some of the people that I talk to have they've actually really said there's a strong correlation between gut health and body health and mind health.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
very interesting that you say that because I've here lately I've been learning a lot about the things that we eat and the things that we put in
Hmm.
our bodies and the
Hmm.
things that we've been conditioned to want. Like Doritos, for instance, is packed with uh, uh, I can't remember the name of the chemical, monosodium glutamate, MSG, and that chemical it really enhances flavor and it tricks your brain into thinking whatever you're eating is healthy. Now we have
Hmm.
all kinds of foods that are packed with stuff like this.
Hmm.
We are
Hmm.
eating these things and it is affecting our body chemistry.
Absolutely, yes. And that's why there's so much discussion that's going on food additives, right now,
Yeah.
and pesticides, insecticides. Most of the food supply that we have in United States is unfortunately laden with these kind of things. If you go to Europe, I don't feel bloated, or anywhere in the world for that matter, Asia,
Yes.
but here so that's one of the problems, is that most of the, I don't know what they're eating, what kind of nutrition they are feeding to their body. Are they nourishing it, or they're just still doing a sad diet, which is standard American diet of processed foods and fast
Right.
foods and stuff like that. So I think that has a lot to do with hormonal imbalances that can occur at a younger age. That's what the experts typically, like I said, that's what they would talk about that. So we don't know, right? It's very personal. It's not like one size fit all. It's not like, okay, you take a Tylenol and everything will go away. This is
Right.
kind of a complex, because you're talking about so many different hormones that there could be going out of balance and messing up something. And the other also thing is that most of the women now are working, as we all know, right? And now they have additional stress, work stress, and for them to balance work and work life balances can be hard, because now the stress can also aggravate all these things, the hormonal imbalance. We should
Yeah.
be aware of that, right? So it's a tough thing, because you're at this age of mid 30s and you want your career to go up, and work in today's day and age is so stressful everywhere in the world. And how do you keep that balance is hard, and you don't have time to cook fresh cooking every single day.
Right.
Sometimes you're busy. So,
Yes.
and then your hormones are going off the chart and you don't know what the heck is happening. Your mood swings are going off the chart, and so all these things are, I think, quite common, and different. Typically mid 30s to late 30s, if these kind of things are happening, could be a perimenopause issue, but 20 something is probably something PMS or PCOS, or general imbalance in the body, and maybe inflammation also. Someone would say maybe your body has a lot of inflammation and toxins. Just to give you an
Right.
idea, there was a research that came out: a pregnant woman's placenta has 170 toxins that she's passing to a newborn baby in today's day and age. Can you imagine
Wow.
that? Because of the
Wow.
wrong diet, because of the all kind of strange things that she might have been, ingesting, which is not
Not only is
conducive.
that scary, but it's heartbreaking too, you know.
Yeah, I mean, a
The
newborn
people that
baby
we
is born. Yeah,
the people that we trust have done this to us, you know.
that's the really sad part here, is that we trust. I don't want to say anything bad about anyone, but overall, like if you look at the ads, like in 70s, right? I was looking at this, so funny. I was looking at the Campbell's soup ad, right? and
Yeah.
and and they were talking about, oh my God, now you can cook in 2 minutes and feed your family mac and cheese, all of these, right? And they show us 70s, in 1970s woman, and she's like, oh, now I can feed my family, and but we are feeding it wrong. That's how this whole thing started: the canned food, the packaged food, right around that time,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, actually, my wife is actually the complete opposite of back. So I think that really started after World War II when
Yeah,
moms, uh, it was an option for mom to go to work and maybe have a career. And then as she got more and more busy, uh,
yeah,
the convenience meals started becoming the regular thing. And
correct.
my wife actually she's actually does it quite a bit more now because of like financial reasons, but she pretty much makes everything from scratch. We haven't bought a loaf of bread from the store, and gosh, it's been almost a year now.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, we've completely changed the way we've done things in the cooking aspect. And really, I don't notice that much of a difference because my wife does all the cooking, and everything that she cooks is wonderful. She's a kitchen magician, but she says it's rather cathartic, actually. The cooking from scratch and the longer. prep times and just the
Mhm.
love and care that goes into the food. She says that's like actually cathartic for her. So I don't know if maybe a lot of women out there might feel the same way if they learned how to make bread, for instance. Um,
Mm.
we have saved so much money on pizza because
Mm.
we make our own pizza crusts and we make them
Mm.
at home now, and we've
Mm.
gotten the cost down to about $5 per pizza for
Mm.
our family, and it's actually so it's a double-edged thing. Not only does she get the cathartic process of making the bread, but
Mm.
we also save money, and it's
Mhm.
been actually wonderful, and it teaches the kids a skill, and there's all kinds of positive benefits to that. But here's a question, like while we're still talking about like the science of perimenopause.
Mhm.
Now, does perimenopause also always coincide with irregular periods?
No, no, no. So first, the first sign of perimenopause is irregular periods.
So
That is the
is
first sign. So if
okay,
you have regular periods and still having these mood swings, they're probably hormonal imbalance or inflammation in the body or something else is going on.
okay,
That's what typically an expert would say. But perimenopause, the first sign of perimenopause is irregular period, meaning sometimes initially the first phase of perimenopause periods could be shorter time, like after 15 days. And then
right,
as a woman starts getting older, they go further apart because now they're going to stop, right?
right,
So, so it could be after 2, 3 months. It could be so towards the close of menopause. It could be after 6 months, 7 months, and the menopause is typically if a woman hasn't had a period for 12 consecutive months, that means
okay,
she is now menopause. So it starts kind of like I said earlier, it could take 10 years. So it's not a one day switch that's suddenly off and on. It prepares the body slowly and it
okay.
goes into shutdown mode here.
Okay, and also what constitutes an irregular period? So in my experience, like so for my wife here at home, uh when we talk about like irregular periods, like I think a cycle's supposed to be like somewhere around 28 days.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
um
And if it's not
so
following the regular cycle, that means it's an irregular period. And maybe if she's having it after 15 days, I don't know, or after skipping it after 2 months or 3 months, that's an irregular. It needs to be like a clockwork, 28 days.
okay, so so with my wife, her cycle is sometimes it could go like 27 days or
Hmm.
35 days, but it's usually consistent somewhere around 4
Hmm.
weeks, give or take.
Hmm.
That is somewhat regular. What is irregular is the length of her period. It goes for 10 days, 14
Oh,
days
wow.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So we don't think that that's normal. And like
No.
when we go to the doctor, when I say we, I never actually went to any of these appointments with her, but when she goes to the doctor, we've had a recent like weight loss. We were
Hmm.
big people, and then we have weight loss surgery, and they attributed the length of her period to weight loss. And
Hmm.
when they told us that, it was like, well, hold on a minute, because this has been going on a little bit longer than the weight loss, and
Yeah.
it's also the weight loss surgery was 4 years ago now,
Oh,
and
wow. That's a long
yeah,
time. Yeah.
and there's still almost every cycle she has about 10 days
Yeah,
worth of
that's
period.
not normal. Sometimes I honestly, like I said, I'm not a medical doctor, but it doesn't hurt to talk to someone like a naturopathic person or someone like and have a second opinion, someone
Right,
who specializes in menstrual health. In today's day and age, there are a lot of experts who are specializing in menstrual health per se, and they would have more time and more diagnostic to spend time with her. Typically medical doctors barely have 5 minutes for you, with a patient. That's
right.
the other problem, and they just are running from here and there. So I think it might not be a bad idea to talk to a menstrual health expert. There are quite a few of them around
Okay.
in today's day and age who can maybe order some tests or maybe do some other things that are going on. Like I said, it could be other things that could be going on, inflammation, hormonal imbalance, who knows, right?
Right.
You don't
Okay.
know. It might not be because of the eating. I mean, it sounds like you're eating fresh foods, but it might be stress from work that's kind of causing it. Who knows, right?
Yeah,
So,
and we're pretty we're pretty stressful here at home. So
yeah.
I of course I'm a male, and uh, we have two children here at home still, and they're both male. So my wife lives in a
Yeah.
house full
So
of boys, and
so
so that
that's
in
not that's
itself can be
very
stressful.
stressful, having two young boys running at each other, fighting with each other. Oh my God, all
Yes.
those things, right? I don't have two boys. I have a boy and a girl, but two boys can do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about how perimenopause may or may not affect relationships. I want to talk about that because I have a specific person in mind. I don't want to call him out by name that is currently dealing with some relationship struggles due to I think a lot of misunderstandings and emotions are high. And I just want to talk about how does perimenopause affect relationships?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, there are approximately 34 or 35 symptoms that are associated with perimenopausal woman, right? Not that she's going to get all the symptoms at one go, but and I was saying earlier, how in the earlier during the first few years, how they're shorter, closer apart, then it goes longer apart. So loss of libido is one of the symptoms as well, and also vaginal dryness is another symptom as well, right? And even
Right.
pain in that area is also one of the symptoms. So it you don't whatever that person is going through, it's first of all that person needs to open up and communicate with someone on all the symptoms that she might be going through that's impacting relationships. Absolutely, like I said earlier, the sleep is an issue, the hot flashes, the night sweats. If someone is going through all these strange symptoms, I mean, I went through strange symptoms, it absolutely impacts you as a person. Your mind, body, and soul is God knows going where. And now it's going to impact the relationship. So in this case, it's very important. Step number one for the person who's going through whatever she's going through is recognize and open up as to what is it she's going through. The communication is key. And then for the partner, the spouse, to understand this whole topic of what the spouse is going through and go deeper into the understanding of why this is happening. And it's not like there's really good people, both of them, but due to these circumstances of what a woman is going through, she might herself not understand what she's going through. That's the problem, because perimenopause is not fully understood. And a lot of women like me, I went through perimenopause without realizing I was going through perimenopause, right? That is the problem here, is the lack of awareness, lack of education, even amongst women. And as I was pointing earlier, even amongst the medical fraternity. So absolutely, yes. It's going to impact relationships because of all the symptoms. She might be going through different symptoms. We don't know. But step number one is to recognize what the symptoms are, laid out in the open on a dining table. Hey, this is what is happening. This is what I'm going through. Tell me what to do, or seek help. That's what I would
Yeah,
suggest.
absolutely. I think a lot of, and I actually think in this relationship in particular, I think a lot of the issues come, um, I not my relationship, but the relationship I'm talking about. I think a lot of the issues come from insensitivity to
Yeah,
a lot of issues that may be. I mean, let's just be honest. They may be real or perceived,
yeah,
but they are real to this person, and they are having a
yeah,
moment that um, it may be upsetting to them, but the other person in the relationship is like, Well, I think you're overreacting. And I
Yeah,
hate when people are like, I think you're overreacting. I
yeah.
think that is such a poor choice of words in that moment. Like there's so many other things that you could say to de-escalate the situation than, oh, you're overreacting, calm down. And I think that insensitivity to one's sensibilities is, I
Mhm.
think, one of the issues that causes problems in the relationship that I'm talking about. Do you see a lot of that with perimenopause and relationships?
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying earlier, I've interviewed over 3,000 women, and majority of the women, they actually associated their journey or the experience of lack of understanding on their spouses a lot, and that's and quite a few of them also separated or divorced because of this was going on and became very unbearable. Yes, this could be a huge, huge, huge problem. And like I said, both I mean, the couple has to come out and put lay out everything out in the open, and talk about some of those topics that have stigma attached to it, like sexual health, for instance. We
Yes.
never talk about these topics anywhere in the world, for that matter, and we have the stigma attached to that. And if we don't talk about it openly, that can absolutely impact relationships in a negative way and break families, which
Yeah.
is not
Yeah.
good, right?
I don't believe in modesty within the home. I'm
Yeah,
I'm one of those type of people's like you could be conservative outside the house. You could be
yeah,
modest, but when you're
yeah,
in the house, you have to be honest and open. And
yeah,
I'm even that way with my guests. Like if
yeah,
one of my guests pisses me off and does something I don't like, I'm gonna let them know. I'm not gonna allow them to continue to do those
yeah,
things so I feel resentful
yeah,
and don't invite them over anymore. I would much rather
yeah,
them understand, hey, I don't like that. Can we not do that when you're over here? And, but be honest with them. Like it's not
yeah,
usually that big of a deal with open
yeah.
and honest communication.
Absolutely. No, no, it's important. So that's the thing, you have to, couples have to have honest relationships with each other to thrive together. Otherwise, you're just kind of getting suffocated in a relationship. And that can happen, right? I mean, today's day and age, we're all so stressed out, and the lack of understanding of this thing called perimenopause, it didn't even exist if you look at it about a decade back. I'm telling you, I had no clue. And
Right. And that's what I
you
was
know
kind of saying when we first started talking is like, man, it is such an interesting subject because it is not well known. And
yeah,
one of the reasons why I'm willing to talk about it is because nobody else will,
yeah,
and
exactly.
if it, there's so many unnecessary stigmas attached to a lot of stuff. Like I'm a UFO buff. I love UFOs. Like I think
Hmm.
it's absolutely silly that we can't have open and honest conversations about
Hmm.
UFOs.
Hmm.
Perimenopause as well. I'm a
Hmm.
guy, I'm 40 years old, I'm a dad, and I still get funny looks when I say the word period or menstrual cycle. Just a few weeks ago, I needed to go out and get some pads for my wife. I don't
Hmm.
have an issue with that. Like,
Hmm.
if I'm going through the store, like, why does it embarrass some people to buy pads or
hmm.
or tampons or
Hmm.
hygiene products? It's like,
Hmm.
why is that embarrassing for a guy? Because if you're
Hmm.
going through there as a guy and you put
Hmm.
some pads down on the car or on the conveyor belt or some
Hmm.
tampons, people are going to know those aren't for you, you know?
Yeah,
So why are you embarrassed, and
I know.
it's one of those things. It's like a natural part of life. And
Hmm.
actually, um in the store that day, I was kind of thinking to myself, why are there packages of 9 pads? Like, so I was buying pads at the time. Why are there packages with only 9 of them in there?
That doesn't
And
even make sense.
right. And I was thinking if these were marketed to a guy, it would
Hmm.
be all bulk. Like you
Hmm.
wouldn't be able to buy small packages. And I was telling my wife that I was asking her, I was like, why don't you buy these things in bulk? Like,
Hmm.
you're going to need them. Like,
Yeah,
why don't you buy a year's worth at a time? And
exactly.
she said, that's a very good question. And she said, I like to blame the pink tax. And I can't
Like the
argue with that.
diapers, I remember going to Costco and buying this big box of diapers, for when the babies, right? Or even toilet paper and some of these things, so that I don't have to think about it for a few months, right? It,
Right, right.
I
And
don't think
that's
they have that. So many of them. I don't think they sell it in maximum pack of 36 or 24. That's what I have seen. I don't know.
so I've actually went to a bulk store.
Mhm.
We have a Sam's Club where we live. So
Yeah.
I actually go there and I've bought pads from there before, and even there the boxes are not like they're like I would buy a giant box of like 1,000,
No,
and they
they
don't
don't sell
have
it. I
those.
think they
They don't
sell it
have
at
those available.
36.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, something
it's
like that.
nuts.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
nuts. And
Hmm.
so that's the stigma that we're essentially talking about is
Yeah,
people
exactly.
unwilling to have those conversations because it's uncouth
Hmm.
or um
Hmm.
it's impolite. I don't even know how it got to be impolite, but
Hmm.
it's one of those things that we should be open and honest and talk about because there's real problems here. There's real things at stake here. And
Hmm.
it's ultimately not good for one's mental health to stuff all those problems down. And it's really not healthy for your body to do those things.
Exactly, exactly. You're absolutely right. No, no, I'm so glad we've had this discussion today, open and honest discussion. More guys like you need to have these discussions to get this message across, to as many people as possible.
So what is one the biggest thing that you want people to know?
I just want people to have open communication and investing in themselves, not think of these topics that can impact your life, be a stigma attached to it and not lack of communication. That's really what I'm trying to, we're trying to do, and also build awareness of these topics that have stigma attached to it, right? Be open-minded. I think this is, like you said, this is natural biology. is every woman is going to go through it, and every family might have some kind of an impact because if there's no open communication. So have an open mind, do open communication, and don't be scared to talk about topics that might have stigma attached to it. The more open, honest communication you do, the better it is for yourself and for your loved ones around you, family and friends.
Right on. And so
Mhm.
to go along with that, what do you think is the least helpful thing that a person might be going through or having to deal with what is the most least helpful thing that you've come across in these conversations with people who have dealt with perimenopause and relationship? What is the least helpful thing?
So most of the women think they're super moms, including me, and they think they can take care of everything by holding things inside them, not opening up. I think that's inherent in most of the women DNA, so to speak. And I think that's the least helpful when women are not doing justice to themselves, thinking that, oh yeah, I got this, I can handle this. Oh, you know what I mean? And and
Absolutely.
and sometimes you cannot, and you should not ignore your body's telling you something every single day. Your mind is telling you something every single day. There are cues, there are red flags, and these are the least helpful if you ignore them. That's what I have to say. And most of us as women, we ignore the
Yes,
that's the
that's
problem.
that's very good. That's listen to your body. Listen,
Hmm.
and this goes for men and women because I know so many
Yes.
dudes out there that just they never go to the doctor unless they feel like
Yeah.
they're dead or dying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my wife is similar to that way. She doesn't go to the doctor because, I don't know if it's necessarily a fear of what they might tell her, but like
Hmm.
you say, she's more like a super mom and thinks that, she's
Hmm.
actually doing more good by holding that stuff tight than going to the doctor. Like she's had shoulder issues for a couple of years now and she won't go to the doctor. I'm like, you
Hmm.
need to go get that taken care of,
Yeah. Yeah.
and imagine how much better you'll feel if you go
Hmm.
see a doctor and have, like at least checked on, like make
Hmm.
sure that you're not hurt, make sure that you don't need something.
Hmm.
And she's
Hmm.
like, no, I'll be okay. I'll be fine. I'm like, well, one day you're not going to be, you know? And that is a very good point. Listen to your bodies, listen to your intuition. If you've got some issues that you're dealing with, don't
Hmm.
be silent, let people
Hmm.
know. For no other reason than to let people know that you're okay, even if you're not okay.
Absolutely. And the thing is, the other thing is, most of us I'm scared to go to a doctor. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what kind of things that they're going to put me on, some kind of a, I won't be able to get out of it, right? But on the
Right.
other hand, I personally have gone a lot naturopath doctors or acupuncturists. Like, I had a shoulder problem. I'll tell you my little story. And I could not even lift my arm. Like, it became so bad. Like, it is actually one of the symptoms a perimenopausal woman can have, is a frozen shoulder. Mine was
Oh
frozen.
no.
And I went to the doctor and said, oh, we could do the surgery. I don't want to go to surgery. So, because I don't know what's going to happen when I get older, right? So
Right.
I go to an acupuncturist. And believe it or not, it took longer. I'll be honest with you. It took me 6 months, but hey, look at me. I could
Right.
not even, I could go like this. It used to hurt. I could not go at all. And it's, so there are options, is what I'm trying to say, right? There's so
Absolutely.
many options. Chiropractors, acupuncturists, they're amazing. They know how to fix you.
I
So,
think I actually
you
think
know,
the I actually think that kind of stuff has opened up over the last few years.
Mhm,
Since COVID, I think people have not necessarily lost their trust in doctors, but
mhm.
kind of more closely understand what doctors really are. Like, they're people just
Yes.
like us, and they're flawed
Mhm,
just like us.
mhm, mhm.
And do we necessarily want to be like, you didn't want to have surgery because you
Yeah.
didn't know, like, well,
Yeah.
maybe I'm going to need surgery on it later. I don't want to have surgery right
Mhm.
now. I've had the same experience with my back.
Yeah.
They told me they wanted to put a steel rod in my
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
and I was in my mid 30s, and I was like,
Yeah.
what do you I can't do that, I'm hopefully going to live until I'm an old man, then I'm
Yeah.
going to have back surgery every few years. No, thank you.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
so I treated the underlying cause of the back problems, and now I'm fine. and
Mhm,
and essentially, people take I think they do trust, or they used to trust too much
mhm,
in pharmaceuticals,
mhm,
the medical health establishment as a whole. And I think people finally actually learned um,
mhm.
that the way the medical and the healthcare system was actually set up was not the way healthcare is actually supposed to be. And we're not supposed to treat problems that don't actually exist. And we're not supposed to cover up symptoms of problems that we um, we were treating a lot of symptoms, but not the causes. And
Exactly.
I think that's a big
Mhm,
issue, especially in
mhm,
today's medical fields, that we're treating a lot of symptoms with a lot of different pills. We're not finding the underlying causes of a lot of
mhm.
things. And
Uh,
homeopathic remedies are actually what's kind of helping people understand that.
Yeah, no, this is a huge topic, and that's why we are focusing on the holistic lifestyle, the naturopathic doctors, because you want to try to get to the root cause of what's causing the problem, not band-aid with some sort of so many medications that can actually have side effects as you get older. We all know that, so that's
And
why we are
then you come into the situation where you're taking a medication to treat this symptom, and then you got to take this
exactly.
medication to counteract this medication, and the side effects from this medication cause you to be three on three other medications. So it's a never-ending cycle, and it's a
Mhm.
giant moneymaker, and which is why we have to deal with it.
Exactly, exactly.
But
Well,
is
this has
there
been a
it,
great conversation. Yeah, absolutely.
it has been a great conversation. Is there anything
Mhm.
else you want the listeners to know?
Well, yeah, no, I just wanted to share what we are doing, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you where can people find you?
Yeah, so it's nourishdoc.com, www.nourishdoc.com. And I'll just quickly say what we're trying to do is we've created a holistic wellness platform for women, specifically going through the hormonal shifts, whether it's PMS, then perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause, to help them navigate this with very simple self-care tools as a starting point, and then guided with experts. Most of the experts are, like I said earlier, naturopathic doctors or dietitians or breath work or movement specialists. And that's what we have built to make it very affordable, scalable, and to help the couples as well.
I tell you what, you know what, Amita, we can actually do this again sometime and we can go through some of the things that you guys do and some
Yeah.
of like meditation is a huge
Mhm.
thing that nobody
Mhm.
realizes how big and beneficial it is for everyone.
Yeah.
And they don't need that. So a lot of people actually think meditation is just sitting in silence and that's not meditation. It can be, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of other ways to meditate, and there's a lot of other ways that we can connect with ourselves.
Mhm.
And so that's
Absolutely. Yeah, no, no, we are coming out with the app next month. So I
okay.
would definitely love to come back after 2, 3 months and talk about so many things that people can use using holistic therapies that have evidence and research and evidence to it. That's the main thing. We feel that, oh my God, if I start doing this, that's not going to make an impact. Everything that like I said, I personally have talked to about 3,000 experts. I had all kind of issues. I come from a medical family. My whole family is medical doctors, but I did the research deep down to really understand what can we do, as to change so many things that we are given, like, oh, the media feeds us, right? We can
Yes.
take control of our lives, we can take control of our health, we can take control of our wellness, and we need to invest in ourselves to understand us better. That's what we were talking about, and that's what I really want to the message to come at the end of the day. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Amita, we'll get together again and like you said, in a couple months, and we'll do this again, and we'll go through some of those things that you guys do, and all kinds of meditation and holistic medicine and holistic
Mhm.
ways to handle perimenopause, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.